President Trump gathering his National Security Council at the White House today as he doubles down on his campaign promise, making the world a safer place after the epic takedown of Iran's major nuclear sites. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt joins us now. Karoline, I know the president seems very pleased by the results so far. What do we know about the effectiveness of the attack that's been relayed to you?
The president is pleased, the country is pleased, and frankly, Brian, the whole world should be pleased with the courageous action that President Trump and our United States military took on Saturday night. I want to thank, and the president wants to thank, the brave pilots who flew nearly 40 hours and more than 7,000 miles from the middle of America to the Middle East to conduct this highly successful and complex precision strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. This is an operation that presidents of the past have dreamed about, but no president had the guts to actually do it. But President Trump did, to take away this imminent threat, not just to the state of Israel, but to the United States and the rest of the world. So the country is a safer place today because of the president's bold action, and he has prevented a nuclear conflict. He has prevented a rogue radical regime from obtaining a nuclear bomb and threatening our people.
So I know the president's very decisive, but he also likes listening to all angles. And he's used to Democrats fighting against him. How much harder was the decision when you have people like Steve Bannon coming over for lunch saying don't do it, Marjorie Taylor Greene saying don't do it, and other voices like that? How did the president digest all that, knowing these people weren't necessarily against him, they're against pending action he more than likely was going to take?
One of the great things that makes President Trump a great leader is his ability to listen to people with different perspectives, but then ultimately make a decision based on his own instinct and the intelligence that he saw. And he saw, based on U.S. intelligence, that Iran is just weeks away from obtaining a nuclear weapon. He talked about that extensively when we took that historic trip to Saudi Arabia. And he talked about how the Iranian terrorist regime was bringing down the rest of the region. And our Gulf partners and allies agree with the United States has the best and most lethal fighting force in the history of the world. And we can use it if we must.
So the president tweeted out the next day, and I agree with you, by the way, and I think most everyone watching does, says it's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? Does he think we should do that? Is he asking the Iranian people to do that? What's he saying there?
The president believes the Iranian people can control their own destiny. And what he said last night makes complete sense. If the Iranian regime refuses to come to a peaceful diplomatic solution, which the president is still interested in engaging in, by the way, why shouldn't the Iranian people take away the power of this incredibly violent regime that has been suppressing them for decades? And so our posture has not changed. Our military posture has not changed. These were decisive precision strikes that were successful on Saturday evening. But the president is just simply raising a good question that many people around the world are asking.
So let's go to the border, if we can, and how that relates to the reprisals that Iran promises. One of the things they said was, you know, Donald Trump, gambler Donald Trump can start a war, we'll finish it. Well, could it be through a sleeper cell here? Well, they certainly have the numbers. It turns out over the last 4 years, there's been over 1,500 Iranians coming through our southern border.
Not good.
729 qualified for release. Your reactions to the American people concerned about a possible sleeper cell reprisal here?
President Trump has no greater responsibility than protecting the homeland. And look at what he has done over the past several months to do that. He has done more than any president in American history to secure our border, and the largest mass deportation operation of illegal criminals, many of them known terrorists that Joe Biden led into this country, are being removed every day. I spoke to our Secretary of Homeland Security this morning. She held a call with governors across the country, and the Department of Homeland Security is actively engaged with our state and local law enforcement partners to protect the American people. That is the president's #1 priority in all of this, and that's ultimately what led him to make the decision to launch this strike on Saturday night, to protect our homeland from threats abroad, and we will continue to protect our homeland from threats here at home.
Karoline, but no specific threat yet in any city or any state or any building?
Not that I'm tracking, Brian, but I can assure you the Department of Homeland Security is monitoring this situation very closely.
So as this operation takes place, Democrats said they were not told about it. They were left in the dark, and they said usually there's bipartisan calls for this, and they didn't know about it. Here is Republican Thomas Massey.
We haven't been briefed. They should have called us all back. And frankly, we should have debated this war powers resolution.
Debated.
Kana and I offered, instead of staying on vacation and doing fundraisers and saying, oh, well, the president's got this under control. We're going to cede our constitutional authority.
Called everybody back.
First of all, we did make bipartisan calls. Thomas Massey and the Democrats, he should be a Democrat because he's more aligned with them than with the Republican Party. We're given notice. The White House made calls to congressional leadership. They were bipartisan calls. In fact, Hakeem Jeffries couldn't be reached. We tried him before the strike, and he didn't pick up the phone, but he was briefed after, as well as Chuck Schumer was briefed prior to the strike. So this notion that CNN ran with at the White House did not give a heads up to Democrats is just completely false. In fact, both Senator Schumer's office and CNN had to retract that story last night because it was a blatant lie. And we showed them the timestamps from those phone calls. But I want to add something to Thomas Massey's false point. The White House was not obligated to call anyone because the president was acting within his legal authority under Article 2 of the Constitution as Commander-in-Chief of the President of the United States. We gave these calls as a courtesy, and the Democrats are lying about this because they can't talk about the truth of the success of that operation and the success of our United States military and the success of this president and this administration in doing something that past administrations, Democrats too, have only dreamed about.
Yeah, but
Ooh, boy, you can't. That was spicy right there from Karoline Leavitt. She is awesome. She's right to it. No nonsense. And let me tell you something. It is a blatant lie. I mean, look, Biden, Obama did the same thing. They striked. They sent strikes all over the world. Nobody said anything. Nobody asked for a congressional permission. And this other guy, who was so-called a Republican, wants to have a huddle to speak on, to have a debate. He said it makes absolutely zero sense to talk about this. This is supposed to be a strategy, a strategic move that we're supposed to attack. We're supposed to eliminate a threat. And you want to have a congressional debate, whether we should do it or not. When I was deployed in South Korea, and I said this story many times, and I thought that Trump was going to send us to war because I was believing the nonsense, the narrative, the propaganda. And when he got there, he had a good conversation with Kim Jong-un, and it was all propaganda. We weren't going to go to war because Trump doesn't like going to war. It's plain and simple. And this is not war. People on social media, on X, I mean, I should have bookmarked it. You know, the propaganda they're spreading. It's crazy to conceive how people are so anti-U.S. Imagine, I said this on a post on X. By the way, you can follow me at U.S. Vet Uncensored, U.S. Vet Uncensored, and on TikTok, Veteran Uncensored as well. I said it on there that this is the greatest country on earth, that it allows people that are not from here to wave another country's flags, to burn our own flag, to kneel while the national anthem is being played, to protect and speak on behalf of terrorist regimes, and nothing happened to them, right? If they did what they're doing in Iran, for example, just to not go anywhere else, they would be obliterated from earth. They would be hung, they would be killed, annihilated, and people just seem to forget what this country is all about, right? And President Trump, he is the commander-in-chief. When I was to finish my story when I was in South Korea, everybody knew whatever Trump says, we got to do. He's our commander-in-chief, whether you agree or not. We have to execute the mission to the best of our abilities. So I don't understand this whole Congress. Sure, we're not declaring war with anybody. This is not war. This was a simple mission. I proudly now, I've been living obviously all my life, but I proudly say that I live in Missouri, where these wonderful jets came out of. They went and came back. 1-day delivery. And they delivered those bombs. And I am so proud to have been a former U.S. soldier and proud of those pilots because they did an amazing job. And thank you to President Trump because he made it happen. And because of him, we are in a better, safer place.